Before you ask, yes, this is Rocket League, and the only way to get this map is if you have a PC. So sorry console players. But anyways, this map is supposed to help you gain aerial car control, and as you can tell from the title, I completed it 100 times in a row. It got really frustrating and I was extremely exhausted because it ended up taking me way longer than I expected. When I first started this challenge, I did a calculation to see roughly how long it would take, and I said on average it would take me about 5 minutes to complete each attempt. So 5 minutes times 100 attempts is 500 minutes. Divide that by 60 minutes an hour and you get roughly 8.3 hours. And I was okay with that, but I was way off and this whole challenge ended up actually taking me about 13 hours. Now, the best way I can explain this experience is that it kind of felt like I was cramming for a test the night before it was due. Like, you learn everything you need to know, but it just doesn't stick with you the right way. Normally, when I do the speedrun, I use free air roll and average about 4 minutes per attempt. But for this challenge, I really wanted to take the time and learn directional air roll since I'm already fairly decent at free air roll. Now, for this video, I'm not going to be discussing how to use free or directional air roll. We can save that for another video, but I'm going to focus more on my experience and what was going through my head when attempting to do this 100 times in a row, and if I think that doing this challenge was at all beneficial for me or if it can be beneficial for you. Now, let me say that doing anything repeatedly and with the right mindset, it will get you better at whatever you are doing, but doing anything excessively and for too long can cause you to burn and you may not even retain any of the information, and that's something that I felt like I was struggling with. So while I did all my attempts in one setting, I wouldn't recommend doing this if you're trying to see improvement. Even for me, the next time I do this challenge, I plan on breaking it down into multiple days, doing it 25 times a day and playing a couple casual matches in between so I can see how the training is affecting my gameplay. So, the experience. For the first 15 attempts, I kind of just went for it with no clear direction of what I specifically wanted to work on, but I figured I'd find things as I go. So as I was messing around with the adjustments, I noticed something interesting. I noticed that when you're holding directional air roll and when you push the analogs directly up and directly down, you get the same motion with your car as if you're using free air roll and moving your analog stick to the right and up and right and down. By the way, I do use right air roll, so that's why I use a right reference. I also chose right directional air roll because I already use free air roll to the right, so I thought it'd be a little bit easier for myself. By attempt 20 to 25, I was still making a lot of mistakes, but I already started to feel a difference. By this time, it had already been 3 hours into my stream, and I was now a quarter of the way done. I was still feeling pretty focused and determined, so I started to go with the flow and picked up more speed and confidence with my air roll. I started averaging 5 to 7 minutes rather than 7 to 10. By attempt 50 to 65, I started to realize I was over adjusting, meaning I would move my analog stick too much when I needed to change directions. I realized that when you go for aerials, if your car is facing the right way, the rest is boost control, and you need to just stop moving the analog stick. I mean, literally don't touch the stick and your car will go straight. Although it does sound simple, the realization helped me make a lot less mistakes. By attempt 65 to 85, I kinda got muscle memory and I started to get through the map with a lot less deaths, but something was still off. I started noticing that my backward aerials were holding me back. I noticed that every time I would stop spinning, I would have the car facing forward, and in situations I stopped spinning where my car was backwards, I would mess up. So for the next few attempts, every time I need to let go of air roll, I let go when my car is facing backwards, and after a couple attempts at doing this, I realized I started using a whole new adjustment I wasn't using before. Basically, I realized that this whole time I was only making one movement with my aerial adjustments. I would move my analog stick to the left and just boost at times I needed to change the directions rather than moving my analog stick to the right for a completely different type of adjustment. So at this point, I was kind of overwhelmed thinking I was never going to get it down, and I felt like it was back to square one trying to learn something new. But after a few more attempts, I started to get the hang of it and I started to just focus on that new adjustment to mess around with it and see what type of situations I can use it. Then I started to practice something new, and I think that it might help you learn directional air roll. I started to spin once between each ring. I noticed that when I did this, it was easier for me to visualize which way I needed to move the analog stick when making adjustments. If you're trying to learn how to use free air roll or even directional air roll, this is the way I would start. So for the last 15 attempts, I both was physically and mentally exhausted, that I just wanted to get it over with. I started to blaze through them as fast as possible with air roll and start to bump a lot of rings again. At the end, I was so tired I forgot to go into free play or even play a game to see how it affected my gameplay. So when I woke up the next morning, that's the very first thing I did. When I hopped into free play, everything I learned wasn't translating when I started hitting the ball. But after a few minutes, I started to get it down and actually hit a few nice shots. After a little warm up, I headed into a casual match and this is the first shot I hit. Then I almost hit this. Overall, this was such an amazing experience and I learned so much from it. I want to thank my live viewers for motivating me through this entire challenge, but I wouldn't recommend that you try this. Like I said before, I would say maybe try to do the map 10 to 15 times in a row and have a solid plan. Try to focus on improving one thing at a time. Focus on doing it straight with no arrows and just slight adjustments. This will help you learn boost control. As you get the hang of it, then focus on doing it backwards with no arrows and slight adjustment. Then later on, add one 180-degree arrow between each ring. Then when you finally are feeling comfortable, try holding arrow the entire time. Each of these small training exercises should help you get a better understanding of arrow and help you build new muscle memories that will help your overall gameplay. I know it can get boring doing the same thing over and over again. Trust me, I just did this thing 100 times in a row, but I know that pushing through training is only going to help me get better and enjoy this game even more. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on facebook.com/JaboGaming96 to catch my live streams and my next 100 in a row challenge. Anyways, peace, love, and salams until next time.